Welcome to the True Hope Cast podcast, where we take a deep dive into mental health's many physiological and psychological aspects. This is the show for you if you're looking for motivation, inspiration, knowledge, and solutions. That's what we're all about here at True Hope Canada. And True Hope Canada is a mind and body based supplement company dedicated first and foremost to promoting brain and body health through non-invasive nutritional means. For more information about us, you can visit truehopecanada.com. Something new for the podcast is we're going to conclude each episode with a 2 to 3 solution-based idea question for each guest. Today's question is going to be, what can we do right now to begin positively affecting our heart function? Today on the podcast, I welcome Greg Elliot. Now, Greg is an exercise physiologist, an osteopath, and an entrepreneur who's on a mission to help everyone own their own health through education, motivation, and actionability. He is a heart rate variability and wearable technology thought leader and speaker, and he's also a sought-after healthcare practitioner. Greg knows the struggle of juggling and keeping health a priority. He believes in a whole health approach that is supported by emerging technology so everyone can live a longer, happier life. Today, we're going to be discussing heart rate variability. Enjoy the show. Okay, Greg, welcome to True Hope Cast. Thank you so much for being with me, for being with us today. How are you? What's going well?
Yeah, it's good. It's busy clinic day, but it's exciting to go in here. I call this my playground, where I get to be able to enact all the things that I learn out in different areas of health and well-being, and be with the team that supports that vision. So it's phenomenal. So it's a good day.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Well, we're going to be discussing heart rate variability today. I think it's a very interesting topic. So many people will be very interested to learn a little bit more about what that is. Everyone's got a heart rate, so everyone should kind of, be interested to see what that can actually offer people. And at the end of the podcast, like we always do, we offer some solutions to a very particular question that's going to be able to impact people right away. And that question is going to be, what can we do right now to positively affect our heart function? And we'll get into that at the end of the show. But to kick things off, can you just give us a little bit of an introduction about who you are and what it is that you do, please?
Yeah, so my name is Greg Elliot. I'm an osteopath, exercise physiologist, and kinesiologist. It's all fancy terms. I'm in physical rehab. I help people that are in, kind of chronic conditions related to pain or fatigue. We deal in our clinic with a lot of we call the functional illnesses, or the invisible illnesses, the PTSDs, the things that the traditional medical system don't have, great resources in order to be able to address. So that's kind of, in the areas of where we are, and where I fit in that is I work on people from an osteopathic perspective, and I incorporate a lot of newer technologies into what we do to be able to better, provide direct interventions and direct care based on a bunch of data that we can capture to make the best clinical decisions as a team.
Interesting. You mentioned there about you're helping people who have maybe not had the answers that they were expecting, or had no answers from like a conventional model. Would you characterize yourself as like an alternative clinic or a complementary clinic? Like, how would you describe that? And how are most people finding you? Are they finding you because they've had like this big lack of success with these chronic conditions that conventional medicine doesn't really have too many options for?
Yeah, the typical journey, I would say, is that we have individuals that first go off into the medical system, whether it's pain, whether it's a symptomology that they have, and they go through all the typical traditional tests, and nothing necessarily comes of it, right? Whether they try medications or get injections, and not real success into there. Those people usually then end up into, a traditional, physiotherapy, maybe clinic or massage, or try to look at some alternative type of interventions that the medical system provides. And then usually from there, if people are going down the rabbit hole a little bit further, we do a lot of work in the local community of education and understanding around that. And usually they end up, if it gets more of a complex case, they tell people to come see us. So our biggest referrals are, surgeons that say it's either, this team or we'll do surgery, or other physiotherapists, don't have all the tools and resources in their disposal, the right network to kind of, bring over to us to be able to find us that way. So we're kind of, not the last hope, but kind of, down the road a little bit of when things are just really complex, when things start to be piled on, where it's not as simple as a stretch or a supplement or a dietary change is going to help resolve the solution. So we take a very integrative approach. We have, medical doctors, naturopaths, we have physical therapists, we have osteopaths, massage therapists, and we really do work as a team with these complex cases to get them into the right type of practitioner at the right time, and try to find the right information to make the best clinical decisions possible.
That's amazing. Can you tell me a little bit about the relationship or the differences in the relationship you have with your patients, with your clients, than they would experience in a conventional model? I've been to the doctor before, not for anything chronic or serious, but it's like a 15-minute appointment, and I'm trying to explain like shoulder pain, for example, that actually kicked off when I was 20, nearly 20 years ago, and I just literally don't have the time to fill that practitioner in with all that information for them to then sign off on tests or sign off on medication or something else. So how different is your relationship with your patients in your clinic than that they would have experienced in a conventional setting?
Yeah, typically the very minimal amount of time we spend with our initial sessions is an hour. It doesn't matter if it's our chiropractor, our massage therapist, our physical therapist, it's never less than an hour. Some practitioners are an hour and a half. And what we want to be able to do is determine kind of like a way more in-depth of history as to what's been done. We want to know, first off, what has already been done that hasn't worked. We want to know family history. And I think the biggest thing that we really do is I think we look at health as a holistic entity. We don't necessarily look at it as a siloed approach with our specific skill set. Osteopathy has certain tools in regards to manual therapy and exercise, but that's only a piece of the overall pie. When we see people with these complex conditions, they are truly what we call the biopsychosocial conditions. All these aspects come into play as to where this person is right now, whether it's the relationship they have with their family, friends, whether it's, some past trauma that's happened over periods of time that's related to a lot of stress in their life, poor nutritional choices, exercise choices, sleep habits, recovery methods, all these things come into play for these individuals. And so doesn't matter if they see me or another practitioner here, we try to understand the person and not the problem, and really get after as to, are they in the right room? I always say that with my initial sessions. I like with the whole the assessment piece, like I don't treat the first session. None of us really treat the first session. It's all about figuring out the plan and the understanding and getting the right team together to action something that's meaningful. I always say, like, the reason why I do this is I want to make sure you're in the right room. I have a certain skill set that I have, but you may not need that at this specific moment in time. It's about educating of how going through a divorce and having a restraining order on your husband is going to play into your lower back pain. How completely isolated you are as a result of COVID plays into that mysterious shoulder pain that they came on 6 months after the lockdown happened. All these understandings of rather than just going right to the intervention, of getting to understand not the problem but the person, provides a significant amount of autonomy and agency for the individual to kind of take over control of their health and well-being.
Yeah, given that space and that time that you're able to give these patients in their initial sessions and then going forward, do you find that they then, because they're being listened to with in-depth questions about their health history, do you find that they're a lot more invested in their own health to kind of get better, and they're actually playing a part, rather than I just foresee somebody with long-term pain going to a doctor's office and they have a very short conversation and they come out with a prescription, and they've just received something, rather they're not really, apart from explaining some things, they're not really a part of the healing process and then the prevention process. It's all about education.
Oh, it's a gigantic piece of all this is the education piece. And this is where, again, we take time to make people understand what our plan is, what our thought process is, what we're trying to be able to do. Again, because, the traditional route is that if someone goes in there for, to see a medical doctor with knee pain, here's some sort of prescription, it hurts when I run, the people then stop running. It's like, you're taking away things that they may relatively enjoy. It's like, well, I can't do these things anymore. And they kind of lose their, not only their identity. For a lot of people that are runners that get told they can't run anymore, right? Or to the point of like, I have this problem that I just, can't get rid of. It's always going to be there. And they kind of lose that ability of I shouldn't progress. I just need to be able to change my quality of life around my problem. Where, we always say here, it doesn't necessarily matter what your goal is. If you want to say you want to run again, fantastic. It may not be a possibility, but let's work on that goal to drive towards that. There's certain criteria you need to be able to do. We have certain thresholds that we need to achieve based on minimum. When we look at research of risk management and injury prevention and all those things, we make sure they hit all those criteria. Now, if we don't hit those things, then so be it. But if their happiness relies in doing an activity such as that is a gigantic piece. It's not good enough when people come to see us and they say, I always ask, part of this, what's your goal? What's the ultimate vision? And they kind of go, I don't want to be in pain anymore. That's not possible. Everyone's going to be in pain. We're going to be in pain. We're going to feel tired at certain times. We're going to be depressed or have low mood or feel anxious. This is a part of life. The thing is, they always get to the root of it of saying, okay, well, when you're in these areas, what does it stop you from doing? What does pain prevent you from living your life the way you want to be able to live? What does it stop? So if you're in pain, like where is your enjoyment stopped? And so we get to that specific area, and our goal is to be able to achieve back that, right? It's very common of, I still want to be in pain. Well, okay, well, what happens when you're in pain? Well, I can't play with my grandkids, or I can't go snowboarding. Being in Vancouver, that's obviously skiing and snowboarding are big things. So what has the symptomology stopped you from doing? That is the goal, to be able to achieve something way more quantifiable than, not truly be able to happen is get out of pain, not be fatigued anymore. But the education piece, as you said, of that, and really kind of laying things out. I heard this one quote in a lot of our patients in the chronic pain space, percentage wise. But I've heard this pain researchers say this, and it's so true, is the best thing you can give someone with chronic pain is hope.
Yeah, I love that. I think, well, you nailed it there in regards to, there's a massive difference between being told that you can never run again or you shouldn't run again than the hope that you might be able to do that. Like, it's going to have completely different thought processes, completely different biochemicals and neurotransmitters are going to be produced, and you're going to be motivated rather than being completely crushed in regards to your process going forward. And you're not going to be particularly motivated to do the necessary things outside of the clinic space that you're going to need to do that work if you've got that vision and the ability to maybe think about running again, or being able to play with your grandkids on the floor pain-free, and getting really, I guess, kind of specific with what those actual things are. Then you're actually able to produce the necessary biochemicals to start like healing yourself from the inside.
Oh, and that's you hit the nail on the head with that. Is that when you improve certain aspects in one area, it's going to improve areas, things in others. We know, it's saying, for instance, we know that being more physically active is good for our mental health and well-being, right? It's like, when you impact one area, it can impact all the others as well. To me, what we're trying to find as a practice, as a clinic, and as practitioners, of saying, well, what's that one thing that's going to have the most amount of effect through the whole health of the individual? Right? There's, again, the three major components of addressing somebody that's going through symptomology such as pain, that say it's not from a car accident, it's not a broken bone, it's a lower back pain that's there chronically, it's the neck tightness that everybody gets, or it's the fatigue on it comes and goes, and all that perspectives. You have to look at the biological modifiable factors, psychological modifiable factors, and the social modifiable factors. And you got to figure, okay, well, which specific area do we feel this person's depleted the most? And then what can we do to support them in that specific area in particular? Again, they may not be in the right room with that side of things. They may need a health coach or life coach. They may need a clinical counselor psychologist with all these deep-rooted traumas, as everything comes out, the evidence now with Gabor Mate, and the body keeps a score, and all these different things of understanding of symptomology can come from deep-rooted psychological things. By connecting all these together, it's we have to figure out which area of our health and well-being will provide the greatest amount of benefit, because sometimes it's not osteopathic manual therapy, it's not exercise, it's not nutritional changes, it's something outside of that realm. And what we try to be able to do, what good practitioners try to do, is saying, is that my area, is that somebody else's area? Do we need to refer out? How can we best support you in that area of your health and well-being? It's going to make a massive impact to everything else.
Beautiful. Yeah. What I think's really amazing and beautiful is that when people really figure out what their motivation is, what their hope is, what their vision is about how they can be in the future, it's always based around like other people, like their kids, their friends, their families, their partner. It's never this like selfish, weird, psychopathic thing. Like that, it's about connecting with other people. And I also think that's probably something that's missing in a lot of people's lives, especially like coming out of the pandemic, you know, isolation and all these things where we're just not supposed to be in that type of a state. We're just looking to connect with more people. And if you have that as the basis of your and the foundation of your healing, you're going to be able to do amazing, phenomenal things. And I'm sure you've seen that over the years.
Yeah, yeah. It's, you know, I kind of go through the progression of things. I think, ever since we've been alive, we know the importance of, physical activity, exercise, nutrition and sleep. Sleep, obviously the pandemic. I mean, everyone read a sleep book during that time, but I think we understood that there was a lot of benefit. We know those benefits, and those have been established for long periods of time. There's been there was a big push 10, 15 years ago around mental health, well-being, and understanding how that plays into health. How can we affect that the most? Various interventions. And I like to think as a practitioner, seeing what COVID did from a social standpoint, when you remove the ability to connect and experience, closeness with somebody and love, for a lot of people that, especially with seniors that were, completely socially isolated, into that. And I have some clients that were pretty much completely socially isolated other than a computer screen for most individuals. And I'll never forget my one client that I kind of alluded to earlier, where came to me with just after the lockdown happened, the first time we were able to see, people again, came with a shoulder pain that never happened in the years that I've seen her. No mechanism for it all. Biomechanically, everything was identical. Like it wasn't a manual therapy or exercise problem. And just talking to her, what things that resonated in my head, which she goes, I just don't remember the last time someone just gave me a hug.
Yeah.
Right. And that like longing for connection and things. And so when things were opened up, months later, it slowly started to dissipate. And now obviously it's been 3 years and never has come back again into that. So you can't underestimate the importance of all aspects of health and well-being. And that's the hope, is to be able to understand each of those and be able to have whether resources, other practitioners, or a network around you that is able to address each of those factors.
Yeah, I really hope that the powers that be that control and manage us in society here in Canada, like, take a long hard look at what those lockdowns did to a lot of people, and hopefully never do it again, and learn from those, my opinion, was an absolute mistake, and recognize the importance of movement, sunlight, connection, talking with people. All of those things are like, they seem so simple and benign, but they're absolutely the core of who we are as people and within our community. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the future. But I want to talk about heart rate variability. So can you let us know a little bit what that is and why is it important?
Yeah, this is, I'd say about 10 years ago, over a decade now, this is it was gigantic in sports performance, really, really big into that around training management. But now I think people are being more, just from the general consumers, are starting to understand what heart rate variability is. And, I think people get confused a lot of times with, it's heart rate, right? It's up and down with my heart rate. And it's not that. What it is that we're all familiar with heart rate, with 60 beats per minute and 90 beats per minute and things. But what heart rate variability is the frequency of which each beat occurs, right? So Simon, you and I can have a resting heart rate of 60 beats per minute, right? So identical resting heart rates over that period of time, where mine beats like a metronome, super consistent on the second, every single second. Where yours goes up, it speeds up, and it slows down. Like it's a nice rhythm pattern where it goes up and down. And you and I have the same resting heart rate. But what research shows is that you are in a healthier, happier, more well state than I am, which is very counterintuitive to what a lot of people think. And even when I was talking to medical doctors and I know a lot of medical professionals at the very beginning of this discovery to me and trying to be able to get this word out, I got a lot of blank and confused faces, and a lot of like, no, it can't be true. So because it goes against our idea of what health is homeostasis. Our blood sugar needs to be controlled. Our blood pressure needs to be controlled. Our, everything needs to be super consistent and repeatable. But that's different with heart rate variability. We actually want more variability. That means overall better physical, mental, emotional, and social well-being for an individual.
Amazing. Yeah, I remember learning about in anatomy and physiology. I had a very kooky professor, and we were looking at just the heart rate, like the typical, when you zoom right in and you just see that like one section of beats. And then he was telling me about how it's much more important to actually like zoom out and look at that over a period of like minutes, and being able to see that variability, that up and down, because you have your heart, which is an incredibly important organ, and you need it to do different things at different times in different scenarios. So like if you do need, you're at the gym, you want to work out hard, you need to be able to get your heart working efficiently in a high state, but then you also want to be able to, when you've stopped and you're done, it comes back in an efficient manner back to baseline. And also when you want to sleep, you want to be able to like get that into a lower resting state and be able to like get it back up, etc. So yeah, it's very interesting that variability piece is much more valuable. If you've got versatile anything, it's going to have a lot more function and value.
Yeah, and you're completely right when kind of you're speeding up and slowing down. To me, that's where like health is, and is in the presence of stress. Like, how do we know that we're healthier?
Yeah.
The fact is that in the same amount of stress that comes to us, that we have as little reaction physiologically as possible. So, like for instance, how do we know we're getting more fit? You do an exercise test. You run, VO2 max or some sort of test where you're running a specific speed. How do we know that the program is working? Is that you do that same test 3 months later and the exact same intensity and your heart rate's lower. Your perceived exertion is lower, right? And that goes through anything. Our ability to go through a public speak and not have our blood pressure go through the roof. Our ability to, have tough financial times and be relatively in a neutral kind of calm state where we're not going up and down too much. That's a picture of overall kind of holistic health, that we can have social impact, stress impact, emotional impact, physical impact, that our body maintains, a very stable environment. And heart rate variability to me is a really good proxy, a really good measurement of our homeostatic capacity, our ability to maintain homeostasis from a general standpoint, and why it's been so widely adopted in sports spaces, in corporate spaces, in biohacking community. All these people are using this values of this umbrella kind of biomarker to give really high quality information back at a non-invasive, continuous way of, are they making the right health choices, interventions, and decisions that's going to impact their health span.
Is this heart rate variability marker being used by like conventional doctors, would you say? Is there an instance where it would be done? I remember when I go and do my like annual health check, be blood pressure and heart rate, and then like that would be it. And if I was kind of stressed out that day, or I was stressed about going to see the doctor, it's going to be elevated, right? So is it actually used, like heart rate variability, in a conventional setting?
No, especially in Canada. I'd say significantly more in the United States. And in the last year, I've done a lot of talks in across the, in California and New York and in Florida. And you're seeing more and more doctors with wearable technology. And a lot of them have these, wrist-based, ring-based wearable devices, and starting to utilize them themselves and into their practice, and see the value of capturing this type of information. Now, I don't know how effectively they're using it or how much they're using it into that standpoint. But I mean, even to see that walking around, and about 50% of the medical practitioners that are there, the doctors and the nurses that are wearing some sort of wearable device and are tracking it. And when I do my talks, come up and show me their data, is, very, very exciting for me for many different ways. But being in Canada, it's still, people wear these, wearable devices, and they think they're only good for capturing your steps and maybe some sleep overall. And they're just kind of happy people are conscious about their behaviors of health and well-being, rather than trying to utilize this information and make better clinical decisions.
Where do you think that trend in the States has come from? If you're saying that, you're seeing 50-60% of practitioners now are like being aware of, they've got these devices on, they're actually using the data, and probably recommending them for their patients as well, to be able to do that, to take another step towards into their healthcare. Where do you think that, what's missing in Canada that's happened in that trend in the US?
Yeah, it's I think the privatization of healthcare makes individuals and practitioners, the move that for a lot of clinics now, that a lot of these clinics are out of pocket pay for people, cash pay services to go out and be members of this, and people are paying money. Sometimes I've heard in the neighborhoods of $100,000 a year to these to these medical clinics to kind of take over their health and well-being. And so that always makes people, from the private business standpoint, kind of be on the cutting edge of things, and being the sexy do kind of thing, to be able to expand into various areas. And so this is a gigantic differentiator in that standpoint, where they can actually use this. It's in the billing codes now. You can have wearable products that are covered by insurance in the US.
Wow.
For various instances. A lot of people are going that in regards to remote patient monitoring, remote therapeutic monitoring. And so there's actually codes now that are billable, that you start to be able to cover some of these costs as well, which is phenomenal. And so that's significantly lagging behind, and obviously the Canadian public system in particular, where the traditional medical system, it takes a lot longer to get these things. They're not as innovative around products and getting things as fast as possible. It's about obviously just addressing the needs at the specific time to go forward with that. But you're seeing the trends now in Canada. There's significantly a lot more private medical centers that are coming up. Just in Vancouver alone, I think there was 5 in the last 2 years that are private pay medical centers that have medical doctors and all these things that are out there. That these huge kind of membership fees to be a part of them, that are coming out. And so you're starting to see their interest in wearable technology. I've talked to a few of them in regards to incorporating how to incorporate those things. So you're seeing the push from the private side, but it's just the differences of business from a private versus a public system, and the way that you're trying to be on the cutting edge of things, and kind of create that advantage from a business.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that within that privatized model, there's competitors. You have to look at the market, and you're just having to improve and be on the cutting edge all of the time if you want to continue having that clientele coming in, growing. So that makes a lot of sense. That's clearly a very, very positive benefit of that, and being able to get these devices available to more people and even covered on insurance. I mean, that's just amazing. I think that's really, really cool. So in your clinic, which is in Canada, which is in Vancouver, like, how are you testing heart rate variability with your clients?
Yeah, so there's many ways to kind of measure heart rate variability. There's kind of 3 major ways to be able to do it. What was typically done in a lot of the research early on is that people will come in at a specific time. You lay down on a table. You would do a reading. Typically it's a 5-minute washout period, a 5-minute reading, and you get your data at that specific point. Time of day. That was how it was traditionally done. How it's done in practical standpoint is 3 different ways. The first way is a lot of psychotherapists, clinical counselors use it from looking at a stress management standpoint, and interventions they can do to help kind of regulate people's nervous systems to get into that parasympathetic type state. So we call it HRV biofeedback. So what they do is they have a wearable device that has a live reading, and they do different interventions at that time, right? So they do imagery, or they'll do breathing patterns, different types of breathing patterns, different type of things, intervention-wise, to see how we can affect that nervous system the most, to get into a more of an ideal type of state. So that's one way to measure it and provide some interventions from more of a acute stress management perspective, like in the moment if something's very very stressful. The 2 other ways, the first way when a decade ago when I started doing this was a single point of time at home. And so how it was done before is you get a heart rate strap. Polar is obviously one of the ones that are out there that provide a high quality HRV data. You would have a mobile application. You would wake up in the morning. I'd always suggest people go pee, because that provides a sympathetic response if you have the urge to urinate. So you go pee, you come back, you put your heart rate strap on, you open the app, you press go. It does a reading of anywhere from about 1 minute to 5 minutes. You get your score, and then you go on your day from more of a chronic standpoint. So you look at over periods of time. That's one way to do it. The problem I found clinically with that is that, one, people would forget sometimes in the morning. They wake up late or whatever, so they go rush out. And the fact that if they knew that if they thought that their score would be bad, whether they had late night or some drinks, whatever it may be, they just wouldn't take it in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I want that information. I want to show you when you make poor decisions what it actually does to your body. So I wouldn't be able to have that data. So what come out now, which was 10 years ago, was not good quality data, but now wearable technology and smartwatches are coming out that provide pretty high quality data, high fidelity data. To around HRV, that we can measure that now nocturnally. There was always the gold standard to, hey, let's measure HRV through sleep, because that's when you're resting, when you see the recovery state and everything like that. So there's a lot of wearables and smartwatches that are out there now to provide some high fidelity data. I'll suggest ones now. I don't have any affiliations with any of these companies. It's all from personal interest and quality information that comes back. is the three ones that I'd recommend depending on your preferences. Is one would be, if you're okay with a ring-based wearable, is the Aura Ring. It's very popular now. It's probably one of the most popular wearable devices that are out. It's you can see it here. I got a little example of it. Little ring-based wearable with a bunch of sensors, measures sleep, activity, heart rate variability, respiration, body temperature, and all those things. I like them because they don't hide behind algorithms. They show you exactly what the data that's there. Allows me as a practitioner to better action the information that comes through, as well as they publish a lot of their research, which is phenomenal. The second is purely a business-to-business model. So if you're a company or a clinic, this is where you deal with them. It's a wrist-based wearable called BioStrap. They're out of Austin, Texas, a relatively newer, smaller company, but they primarily deal with businesses. But it's a wrist-based wearable, long battery life, and very similar that they'll give you a bunch of the raw data, raw information, so you can make better clinical decisions. They don't hide behind anything of these algorithms standpoint, right? So as a practitioner, it's extremely valuable.
Yeah.
The last one, if you want more functionality, where you just don't want something that has no display, you want to be able to see text messages and, do different things with your watch and workouts and see things on the watch itself, is Garmin is a great starting point from that standpoint based on the quality. Originally they were okay, but they bought a company called Firstbeat in 2020 during the pandemic, and since then it seems their quality. My team sometimes calls me the human cyborg because I wear many wearables at one time to see all the data comparatively, and they performed very, very well when we had them against other high quality devices like the Oura Ring and the BioStrap. That they're very, very close in regards to the statistics. So if you want more functionality from a smartwatch perspective, Garmin's a great choice.
Amazing. Some really cool recommendations. So when somebody's wearing either this ring or one of these other like watches or smart watches, as a practitioner, what are you looking for and what are the red flags?
Yeah, it's a great question. So initially, so they're wearing their wearable device. We suggest them do it and say, first I want a baseline for these individuals. It's not just, one time in the moment. What does tomorrow bring? It's usually about 7 to 10 days, depending on the individual, where I want to see. I want to see where, overall, where that number sits in regards to the demographic that they're in, right? So if they have heart disease, I expect certain things. If they're 20 versus 60, I expect certain numbers. And so I have, decade of experience of understanding what seems to be a good value versus a bad value. And I'll kind of play that into everything else that I know about the individual. That's kind of the first thing that we do. From there, based on the history, we determine these low-hanging fruit from that. If HRV is not in an ideal state, again, if you're not familiar with numbers, I'll just throw out numbers. We'll just say 80 is good and 20 is very bad. If someone comes in there with chronic pain, they're typically in the 25 to 30 range, which is significantly lower than we would like them to be, and that's typical for someone that has chronic pain for long periods of time. What we want to use this information is that it doesn't necessarily matter what intervention they're doing. We want to see progress in their heart rate variability. The reason why is because we want to get people that are in chronic pain out of the sympathetic state. We know a lot of conditions. Over sympathetic activation means we're in a chronic stress state. Chronic stress state is because of poor health habits or many different things, which can lead to the development of chronic diseases and illnesses. And so we need to get them out of being more dominant sympathetically into more parasympathetic. So we'll try what we think, right? We'll go on what research shows, what we have experience with, and we'll be able to provide them, whether that's exercise, whether it's nutritional supplementation changes, whether that's sleep pattern changes, whether that's working on journaling or meditation or some sort of psychotherapy intervention, whatever necessarily the intervention is, we want to see that impact has on that heart rate variability. That to us is our umbrella biomarker of saying, are we making the right decisions or not? So it comes back to that. It provides the benefits of that. One, it provides treatment efficacy, intervention efficacy for us. Just because an exercise works for 99.9% of people with back pain and alleviates back pain doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for that individual right in front of me. I want to know that that's the case. I don't want them having to continue on with a specific plan and a specific regime if it actually doesn't provide any true objective benefit. Obviously, subjective is important as well, but I really want to say, okay, well, great, you're feeling better, your HRV is so low. There's other things that we need to be able to do to making sure that this pain stays away and it stays away for longer periods of time, and you're less likely to get back into the cycle. And that's when we start to open up into other different areas. So I love HRV in the fact that it determines kind of these big, there's something big going on. The difficulty and why a lot of people have a hard time applying this is that it truly takes a holistic approach into this to be able to understand the person in front of you and to all aspects of their health and well-being to actually make a real meaningful difference in someone's heart rate variability.
Yeah, it makes a significant amount of sense to me that if you're able to kind of gauge where somebody's nervous system is most of the time during the day, if somebody is in sympathetic fight or flight response most of the day, they wake up feeling stressed and they're stressed through the day and they go to bed feeling stressed. That is most people, whether they're like conscious to it or not. Being able to figure out whether like, okay, are you actually putting your body in a healing environment, a place to actually heal you and take care of your pain, take care of your aches, take care of your dis-ease. If you're spending 5% of your day, maybe that's sleeping, actually in a healing state, you're never going to heal. You're never going to get on top. You're never going to be in a place where you feel amazing. So it makes a lot of sense that you use this type of equipment to see like, okay, listen, you're spending all of your day stressed out. You're never giving your body ability to actually heal and progress. We need to start putting some things into your day. And obviously you can show them this evidence. You can show them this heart rate variability. People like that, they'll be able to see that. And it's like, oh my gosh, like, look at that. I didn't realize how like stressed out I am. Even like, when I'm having breakfast with my kids, So it's okay. So now we can start thinking about exercise. We can start thinking about meditation. We can start thinking about having a cup of tea rather than having coffee. And there's obviously lots of things we can do within nutrition and diet that are going to like spike our nervous system to be firing, or we can do something to calm it down and give our body the space and ability to heal and recover. So it's amazing technology and amazing data I'm sure you'll be able to use. I just want to play devil's advocate for a sec. Are there any negative effects or aspects about like wearable technology? Because I went through a stage of, give me the latest Fitbit, I'm into it, let's go. And then I was like, oh, you know what, I don't like this thing talking to my phone all of the time. So I would take breaks, and then now I don't wear it. I just wear a watch, and I'm in the market now. I think I'm going to get an Aura Ring, because you're the third person I've spoke to who highly recommends the Aura Ring, and it's kind of cool. It's subtle. I'd rather that than a watch that I have on my wrist that probably gives me too much information. I don't want to be checking text messages on my wrist. I'm not that type of guy. But are there any negatives that you've seen in your experience of wearable technology?
Yes. And there are two different branches in this, and one we can probably talk forever on, but the more obvious one is very similar to what you alluded to, is that people become hyper obsessed about their data.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. They said, you wake up, my sleep score is terrible today, blah, blah, blah. What did I do? And things like that. And it's like, it's okay. Like it's all right. Like, don't be too obsessed that you thought you had a good night's sleep and you didn't. Right. Like even now, I haven't checked my ring today. And that's the thing is because it's not about, day-to-day type of things. It's about what are the trends, where things are going. And the biggest thing, and I would say the one thing that wearable provides individuals that I try to be able to instill into them is very, we talked about earlier, is that agency and autonomy to what's going on. It brings the awareness of certain things. Awareness, I find, and you alluded to this in the just before, is a gigantic intervention in itself, to understand where your body is, of saying like, oh, I didn't know I was stressed. But if you look at this value, it's like you're sitting in the bottom 10% of people for your age category, and you're relatively a healthy individual, right? We know that you become awareness, like, oh, I didn't realize that into that area. Awareness around specific things is a huge game changer for a lot of people to be able to have that feedback. But then be too obsessed with that is detrimental. And what I like to say, what I try to get people to do is, I use the example of like someone, running a marathon, and they continuously wear a heart rate monitor, right? They're going through their training program. They have a hard day, easy day, light day, all these things. And they kind of follow this routine. After a few weeks, even a few months, I can almost guarantee that individual will know when they're running, they'll have a pretty good idea of where their heart rate is.
Yeah.
Right. Based on their intensity. I'm probably around 150 right now. And I'm sure you experience this with people. It's like, yeah, they kind of know where they're at. And that's the same thing, is I want people to be more in tune of the behaviors that they do and the feelings that they have as to where their body is in certain areas of when they go through a stress state, what happens. And so the whole point is like, get into that awareness spot, and you're doing various things. You're kind of changing just remove the data for a while, right? Go live those healthy lifestyles. And when you want to be able to change something or alter something, you want to make a big life shift in regards to behaviors or whatever, then you can get back on it and continuously do it. It's just being too obsessed on a day-to-day basis of numbers. And if things aren't going great, it's like the world is ending. It's like, no. People come to me and say, hey, Greg, my HRV is low. Like, what do I do? Or my sleep score is bad or whatever. It's like, just all it is means you woke up, you didn't fully recover. So just take a little priority for you today. Go outside for a walk and be able to get into nature. Just have a little more water, eat really good food, and plan to go to bed a little bit earlier. If you're going to have a workout later today, maybe just decrease the intensity a little bit of it all. Just kind of do things to not overstress your body, but be able to prep your body for a good recovery. So that's the kind of the standpoint that I have with individuals. So that's one of the big things, is that people just read too much into the data, where it should guide you and not direct you specifically to do something.
Yeah, it's an informational tool, right? It's there for you to be able to look at, and then rather worrying and stressing about what happened, it's to like, what can you do now in the future to support yourself.
The second big push that I've seen a lot lately is about their health data. And what are people going to be doing with it? Who has the data? Who owns the data? What are they going to do with the data that they have? As we know, is the next big kind of big push is the value of health data out there is just growing and growing and growing, of how this type of information can be used by companies for not very good things around people, and it's too invasive into their life. So people are very concerned about this type of information being out there, whether it's tied to their name or tied to any kind of identifiable information that could go back to them. And if that information's out there, if someone buys it, are they going to target me with certain things based on what they know, that they know I've have poor sleep, and all of a sudden, Facebook buys the data and I'm just getting bombarded by sleep pills and all that, right? And so that's another big concern with individuals around wearable technology, is they don't want necessarily have get their health information exposed out to companies to be able to be purchased on their behalf. And so that's a big concern. So you're seeing a lot of companies. Actually, there's a new wearable out there called Now Watch, NOWATCH, like No Watch, that's out there, where they say they don't own data. They're purely there to the fact of like, it's for you. So like, they can't sell your data. They don't own it at all. It's completely for you that's out there. So there's a lot of companies making pushes around not owning the health data, but more of like, what the app can do and how it can help individuals in general, which is great. But it hasn't been that way for a very long period of time, because companies that are smaller, to try to make waves, they want to be able to own this data because it's valuable to bigger companies to be able to purchase.
That's really cool. That's a great answer. So you're talking about people who just get way too like orthorexic about the data and the information, and stress out even more when it's supposed to be a tool to help you kind of like get a handle on your stress. And also people who are maybe a bit like, freaked out about where that data might be going. And if you're worried about that, then there's clearly companies out there that are facilitating that need. Like you see it with cell phones as well. There are people making cell phones that won't capture your data as well. So that's amazing. That's really, really cool. I just want to touch on supplements, heart health, nutrition, and all of that. Like here at True Hope Canada, we have 6 products. Our flagship product is a broad spectrum micronutrient formula called Empower Plus, and it's got 35 medical journals, government funded, from I think 12 different universities from around the world. One of the most studied micronutrients on the planet, and we're always talking about it on the show and within our social media streams, and even just within the team here at True Hope, about how important it is as a foundation within anybody's health. You could be a super fit ultra marathon dude, or you can be somebody who's sick and dealing with chronic disease. You're going to need to take care of your foundational nutrition. Like there are an untold amount of things coming into our world every single minute of every day that are depleting us of nutrients. Our soil is not what it was. Our food is not giving us the nutrients necessary anymore. So when it comes to heart health and supplementation, what are some of the things that you focus on? Obviously, it's going to be different with individuals, but is there a standard protocol that you work with people with?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, the first thing is we always do a comprehensive amount of blood work. right? So that's the first thing that we will do from there, depending on what's going on, right? Because heart health can be impacted by high blood sugar, in regards to hypertension, and there's other kind of primary things that can impact the heart. So we got to figure out, okay, well, what's stressing the heart? What mechanism is really impacting it the absolute most, and we'll be able to start from there. Our naturopaths and medical doctors here do a phenomenal job in regards to supporting on the supplementation side, whether through IVs or through various products from there. But from a personal standpoint, what I've from a purely heart health perspective, obviously we've seen phenomenal stuff from funny enough from vitamin D has been a big one in regards to heart health, which is quite surprising for individuals. We see that being quite important. We also obviously the omegas and be able to address from there. But it really, from a general standpoint, we don't necessarily, and it's very similar to how we deal with from a manual therapy perspective. We don't necessarily have a specific protocol. Someone comes to me with back pain. I don't have back exercises, and we try to apply that necessarily, to our nutritional supplementation. It's more of, we have the heart is not functioning, but is there downstream effects as to why that necessarily may be the case, and then we'd be able to kind of go from there.
Really cool. Yeah, I think that the fact that I think most people are nutrient deficient in some manner, and we're looking at especially our youth dealing with so much anxiety, so much depression at the moment, and a significant amount of it when you look at people's blood work, you look at big cohort studies of individuals, the links of vitamin D deficiency and depression are insane. The links of mineral deficiencies and depression and anxieties is insane. So being able to take a product like Empower Plus, which is very specifically made and chelated, we chelate our minerals for 4 days. Other companies do it for 4 hours. So our minerals are getting through the blood-brain barrier and being able to affect the whole body, which is obviously very, very important when a lot of deficiency and a lot of imbalance is happening, psychologically within the brain. Such a huge aspect. And we were talking off air before we went live today about your practice, this holistic, integrated, functional practice that you have. Maybe you could just touch on a little bit more about what else you offer there, because I want to talk about, before we finish up here, the difference between the type of practice you have and the type of healthcare that most people are getting in Canada. Because before I moved here 7 years ago, people were telling me that Canada's healthcare is like the best in the world. And I was like, okay, that's interesting, because people say that in England about the NHS, and sure, it's free. It's not free because we obviously pay for it with our taxes, but amazing people working within it, but they're just stretched to the limit in regards to what they can deal with, because 95% of people going into the NHS or probably through doctors' offices here in Canada, they're dealing with chronic issues that they're not going to find an answer for. So can you tell us a little bit about your practice, how it differs, and maybe your vision for the future of healthcare within Canada?
Yeah, so we really try to be able to coin, the term with us as an interdisciplinary clinic. It's not a multidisciplinary clinic. Multidisciplinary to me just means there's a bunch of different practices under, and practitioners under one roof. And typically what that is everyone kind of runs their own show. They kind of see their patients, they come and go. It's a spot for, those individuals to come in and get treated and then leave. And what we try to instill is very much this interdisciplinary model where people come in. It is almost always the case that they see another type of practitioner here because there's some other tool that needs to be introduced in order to be able to kind of make a meaningful impact for that individual. And so we really do try to talk with one another to be able to connect with these things. And we have people that own a case manager for that specific client or patient. And then we have the discussions as team, and we really work very good to one another. And so I might say, to a point of, someone comes to me with certain issues, I say, okay, well, first, based on what we find, acupuncture is probably the best intervention that we need for that specific point because of A, B, and C. What we're going to do is we're going to send you over to Sherry. You go with her. We'll probably need about 3 to 5 sessions. We have the same kind of EMR system. I go talk to Sherry, what the plan is. And then when she feels she has a good grasp of what's going on, she communicates to me when to come back and what the next steps are and how we kind of involve other people and where deficiencies may be, where we need to get tested through the different practitioners. And we kind of, go on from there. The people feel very well supported. They feel heard and taken care of. They feel that they're trying to be able to get to the root cause of their problems, and that's just not necessarily a case. In Canada, it's more than the U.S. It's extremely siloed in its care. You come see a medical doctor. It's usually to the point of what's your symptomology, and here's a prescription for your symptom. From a physical therapist, it's lower back pain. Here's some lower back stuff. I don't necessarily kind of be able to put all those pieces together, and that's what we're trying to be able to accomplish, is that kind of integrated model. And you're seeing that push more and more and more, especially in the U.S. in particular. But you're seeing that kind of from the grassroots now, talking to different EMR systems, electronic medical record systems, talking to different companies. You're seeing the trend going that way. A lot of people are saying, yeah, it's already started. It's already going that route of these type of membership models where you're a part of this team, and it's all areas of your health that are being addressed, and not just seeing self-directed, where my shoulder hurts, I think I need to go see a chiropractor, or I'm feeling fatigued, I'm going to go see a naturopath. It's like, well, we don't know what the deal is. It's not, you're trying not to be self-directed. You go into one place and have all these team members work together to figure out, hey, what type of practitioner type of care that you need individually, based on your needs right now, that we can assess, and we'll start that route and be able to add the other layers when it's ready for that individual to do so.
Very cool. I remember when I was studying nutrition in Victoria, and when I finished and I started my practice up, I think every other client I needed to refer to somebody. I need to refer to at least two other people, and it was usually like I need to go and see a herbalist and go and see an acupuncturist. But unfortunately for them, in the situation we're in right now, they have to go to one part of town to go and see an acupuncturist, pay $120 for a session, fill out their huge intake form, and then go to the other side of town to go and see a herbalist and do exactly the same thing. And it's not affordable, it's very, very expensive to be able to do that. Also, time is a massive factor. So being able to go to one space, one clinic where these practitioners are working with each other and referring within there and sharing that information, where you've kind of just got this one intake form, and you're being able to have sessions with the practitioner, and you're adding to that and you're conversing. It's honestly the only way that healthcare can become what it's supposed to be, I guess, in the future. And yeah, there's people like James Mascow in the US with the Functional Forum, doing amazing stuff with functional medicine, and it's clearly working over there. It's clearly something that is being taken on board in the US, and I just hope that something like that comes over to Canada. It's clearly working now, because you've got your clinic over there, which is in Vancouver, which is amazing, which we'll talk about just before the end of the show, where people can connect with you. So we have a lot of listeners from BC. But just to finish off with the show, we're gonna clarify and get into the question a little bit more that we asked at the top of the show, to give people some solutions. Right now, what can they do? And the question is, what can we do right now to start positively affecting our heart function?
Yeah, I always suggest is we always kind of start off with that baseline, right? You got to be able to do that, and I think one of the things, and I'm sure you've seen this lots, is people get blood work done and be like, oh, I had a comprehensive amount of blood work done, and you start getting to the nitty gritty of it all. And I thank Peter Attia to start to be able to be the thought leader around this, and probably verbalize this and get this in front of most people. There's a lot of testing that's not necessarily done in the traditional system that can provide immense value and understanding and action towards certain aspects of your health and well-being, so we know what direction to be able to go to. So that's the one thing I'd say is getting that baseline of blood work and using wearable technology to help with just understanding that awareness piece. I don't see it as a diagnostic thing. It's not to be able to say, oh, I have a heart problem, I have this, I am. So it's about saying, as you make various alterations in your life, you have something to kind of understand that you're making the right choices, based on that wearable technology. So those are two things I'd say from a perspective of a baseline, I'd always highly suggest people getting. From there, it's really understanding and getting yourself a lot of self-discovery around awareness of kind of where your low-hanging fruit is. And one thing I always explain to individuals is that, if we look at our lives, all of us can improve our physical activity, improve our nutrition, and improve our sleep, improve our stress management, our social connections, and all those different areas. And heart health, it's to me, it's the center of our being. This is where, everything kind of runs through and across, and so it's super important to understand that. So getting blood work to understand of kind of where you're at, and understanding the other important, impacts it can have on our heart function. Our heart function can be altered by our emotional state, our social state, our connections with people. It can increase the effort that it provides, our physical being, for sure. So having a truly holistic understanding of you is also super important for heart health and well-being. And to me, the founding pillars, if you kind of, one framework that I like to look at is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's not necessarily saying one thing is more important than another, but Maslow came up with this kind of hierarchy of our needs that we need as human beings, and kind of layered things on in a very nice way that gives a good framework to understanding of where to go. So I'd really look, if you're not familiar with it, I would look it up. But it always starts with the base of the physiology, right? It looks at physical health, exercise, physical activity, nutrition, and sleep. And so from a heart health perspective, and even from a general health perspective, it's about kind of dialing those things in, with the standards that we know that are positive for heart health. Make sure those are implemented into that. Those are require the least amount of effort in order to change, more than self-actualization or our confidence, self-confidence, our emotional regulation, safety needs, all these things that the hierarchy shows. But that foundation, that pillar of our physical health and well-being are modifiable factors of our exercise, our sleep, and our nutrition. Getting those dialed in with some high-level professionals, and give them a good amount of blood work to be able to kind of frame out where you need to be able to improve is something everybody needs to start with.
Amazing. Great recommendations. Yeah. And we're so blessed these days to be able to have like unbelievable access to people like Andrew Huberman and Peter Attia and like Tim Ferriss, Joe Rogan, I suppose, as well. Like these people having these amazing conversations, like the literally Stanford professors that you can listen to for 3 hours every week on amazing, topics that are just like on trend, and they go into the most wonderful amounts of in-depth detail. So depending on your knowledge, whatever you want to do, there's just such amazing information, education, just like at our fingertips, just to like bounce into podcasts. So I really appreciate that information. That's a really great recommendation. So how can people connect with you, Greg, and where tell us about the clinic a little bit? Where is it?
Yeah, so our clinic's right downtown Vancouver at Nelson and Howe. So if you're in the BC area or Vancouver, you can come see us. And again, very much an interdisciplinary. It's called Fit to Train. There's a bunch of different practitioners here from all different backgrounds, and it's a truly integrated clinic. And we like pointing people in the right direction, whether it's with us or with other people. So if you're interested of getting kind of like a holistic assessment, definitely come on down and check us out. If you want more information kind of around, wearable technology and health and well-being of around that standpoint, understanding those things, you can go to gregelliot.ca. I just launched it. So there's some information there of past podcasts. I'm going to be releasing a lot of free ebooks over the next few months here, so people can access to what HRV is and how to improve it, and how to use wearable technology for their health and well-being. Provide some free resources for individuals to improve their health and well-being, and get that health agency, or that control over their health and well-being that is so important.
Amazing, Greg. That's it. That was wonderful. Thanks so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to get this episode out to people. It's going to be really helpful.
Well, thank you very much. And I know podcasting is a lot of work, but I must say you've done a phenomenal job with all of the guests you've had at this point, providing high quality information to everybody. So my hope is obviously you keep going with this all, because you're providing immense value. It's people like you and what you guys are doing that really is going to kind of be at the forefront of this change. So thank you for making the effort to be able to do this.
Well, I really appreciate that, Greg. Thank you very much. Well, that is it for this episode of the True Hope Cast, the official podcast of True Hope Canada. I will make sure that there's information in the show notes. You can connect with Greg and check out his stuff and check out the clinic there in Vancouver. But that's it for this week. We'll see you soon.